Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today is a very special episode, as every episode is. I am joined, as always, by Billy, Dota Completes My Life, Rothert.
God. I feel like every time we start a new podcast, I'm just ready to cringe at what new nickname I'm going to get today. All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Billy Rothert, a.k.a. Rothgar. Happy to be talking about Dota today. Yeah, Dota is sometimes a problem in my life, but through good and bad, it's always been there.
And we are also joined by competitive Dota players, Steve Nyx Redacted. Hello, Steve.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
And Linden Olive Garden Redacted.
Hey.
So we've got the Redacted brothers here.
Competitive, air quotes.
Competitive.
Yeah.
So why don't you both, since you're our guests, why don't you both explain to us and the listeners how you got into Dota, what sort of competitive play have you guys seen, and how do you fit within the Dota scene?
I'll go first. So I've been playing Dota for about a year and a half. I got into it through a online clan mate who he and I were kind of going back and forth on game titles we were playing at the time. He got me into it, and I was pretty quickly smitten by it. I find myself in the 4-5 role typically. I'm more of a kind of support roaming ganker. And that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked up Dota my first year at university in 2008. That was when I first played, so I'm from the Dota 1 community, I guess. But I took a hiatus for about 6 years, and I picked it up in 2013. And play about 6 games a day since then. Don't seem to get much better, so.
That's fine.
I play pretty much everything, though, as far as roles go. I'm in the typical scrub tier, so always something new.
Okay, so Billy, you know Billy from he is in your clan, correct?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so when I played Dota before, I started in May of 2013, and I played for about 8 months, and then I joined a team under one title, and then we sort of rebuilt the team and made it a new team. One of our good friends, who goes by the name Lotus now, was on that team with me. We played on the team together. That team effort sort of came to its conclusion. We said we're not going to do this whole team thing anymore. But Lotus and I stuck around and stayed pretty close. And then later, when we were doing the Play Like a Girl podcast with Haya, she said, "Hey, you should join this clan. It's really fun. It's not like that toxic environment that we were in before. It's actually kind of nice." So
Yay!
I did. So that's how I joined the clan Reborn Dominion, which is what Nyx and Olive Garden are part of as well.
Very cool. And if anyone does not remember our Play Like a Girl episode, you should check out that episode. And also, I explain there how I got into Dota. I started playing in 2013, around the same time Billy did, and I was never very good. I would say I was on your level for a while, Billy, probably slightly above it, if I do say so myself.
Sure, whatever makes you feel better. Sleep at night. At least you got out. That's
Yes.
all I can say.
I truly won Dota by getting out of Dota.
That's the real victory. Is playing it for a while. This game is cool, and then just putting it the fuck down.
I was going to say, I think that's the only way you actually win that game.
Yes. However, that is not why we are here today to talk about how I left Dota. We are here today to talk about how cool the Dota scene is and how competitive Dota looks. So, both of you have been in online Dota tournaments, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what does an online Dota tournament look like as a participant? Are you getting an invite to a private set, private matches, and that's how it's handled, or how does the tournament organization happen?
So the ones that I've been in have all been, they kind of use the Steam client as a backbone, where they'll start a group. They kind of invite you into a Steam group, and then they're all the tournaments, of course, are all web based. You link up with an administrator and then the other team captain. You'll have the kind of the calendar spread out for that season of competition, and you kind of just go from there.
Nice. And so you're pulled in, and from there you're using the basic Dota client, and with picks and bans and all the standard rules that you would see in something like the International?
Yeah. Last time I played, it was regular captain's mode, where it was your 5 picks, 5 bans.
And let me ask, between the, I guess, tournament setup, how many tournaments, or what fractional part of tournaments are more like social media leagues? Like there's some kind of like Reddit league where people just say, hey, we're going to host a tournament. It's going to be, first 16 teams sign up, and how much of it is like a more established recurring event kind of thing?
I'll pass that to Linden. Linden's probably got a better pulse on.
I think like there's a few options. There's kind of both options that you can go with. I know that Reddit league's pretty popular. I think they have quite a few teams, but there's some administrators that just set up tournaments, charity tournaments, and they just have a website devoted to it. Just sign up through Steam, and you're on your way.
And among
Simple
the more
process,
like among the more established, I guess, outside of the social media leagues, there are some sort of established websites that say, hey, we're going to run weeklies, small buy-in, it's like $5 prize pool, stuff like that.
Yeah.
How are those tournaments divided up so that you're not playing against people that are like, semi-pros or like really good people? Like, how can a person who's more casual try out tournament play?
Well, yeah, like we're playing in the AD2L, which is the Amateur Dota 2 League this year, and we actually have 2 teams. So they split it up by MMR. So you have the 4K and above tournament, and then you have a 4K and below. So that's where we got one team. Like I'm playing on an entry team, which is below 4K, and it's pretty good. I mean, the skill level is definitely not as high as the other teams matches that I've watched, but that's a good entry, but it's still competitive for, I would say, a new Dota player.
So at that level, are you worrying? Is there the trappings of things like a stream that's going out, or announcers, or is it mostly private games between the two teams that happen to be playing at the moment, and then at the end the results are just kind of posted?
Yeah, so they schedule a weekly game, and you usually just end up adding the other captain on Steam. So you set up the game that way, but there's casters as well, amateur casters, doing all these games. Not all of them, but quite a few of these games. So we've had games casted.
Okay, very cool. And would it be for a the tournaments Twitch channel or a personal Twitch channel, or how does that stuff actually go out?
The guy that I've had casting ours is Dota TV, and then he'll also have his Twitch, and he'll put the VODs online. So it's really helpful because you get to watch it afterwards and have a third-party perspective of what your play was that game. So
very cool.
It's really good.
So both of you mentioned, Steve, you mentioned that you're a 4 or 5, and Linden, you mentioned that you kind of roam around in terms of what role you play. And I was wondering if you could break down, for someone who doesn't necessarily follow Dota super well, exactly what those positions mean in a raw gameplay sense. Like if I say, I'm a point guard, it doesn't just necessarily mean that I pass a whole lot. It usually means I'm about this height, I have these responsibilities on a basketball court. Same thing with like quarterback. So if one of you could break down just some of the basic roles for someone who might not understand.
So at the most basic level, I'd say, if I'm explaining Dota to someone, I say it's a 5v5 game of chess in a chess type board setting or arena. So multiplayer online battle type arena. In that chess match, you have, instead of, your squares by squares, you have basically 3 lanes of attack, or 3 lanes where you're going to have these NPCs spawn on either side, friendly to you or against you, and pushing towards ultimately the ancients. So Defense of the Ancients, Dota, is where the name comes from. So in the team hierarchy, you have positions 1 through 5, like you mentioned, and those kind of denote lowest to highest, in terms of importance, priority for farm, focus. So when I said I'm a 4-5 player, that I'm kind of at the bottom ring there. So I'm not really focused on getting last hits, trying to make gold. I'm not going to get the super sexy items. My focus is more on safeguarding the positions above me. The 1, 2, 3 positions, making sure we have vision out on the map so that they don't get ganked, so that they're able to farm and get the items that are critical to their builds that not only help the team but also counter whatever the team is building. As you get more into it, maybe maintaining kind of map awareness, seeing what the other team is building. If guys on the other team are missing for a while, being cognizant of the enemy moving around the map where we might not be able to see them, smoke ganks, TP ganks, stuff like that.
Right. And so ultimately, like, this whole gameplay acts like a push and pull sort of tug of war mechanic. You'll be fighting to gain control over some part of the map. They'll take control of another part of the map, and you want to eventually push the other team back into their base and destroy their central structure. So, ultimately it's a destroy the other person's base game. Yeah. That was a great summary of the sort of 1 through 5 roles.
So the 4 and the 5 are mostly assisting. They are spending their money and spending their experience and spending their time to ensure that other people get experience and farm and don't have to worry about that stuff, right? So then what does the 3, 2, and 1, what is their role, generally speaking?
Linden, you play it more than I do. You want to talk it?
No, I mean, your position 1 is your backbone. You want to make... He's item dependent. Generally, it's an item dependent hero, so if his gold suffers through poor play or poor last hitting, that can cost the game right there. So a lot of times, like we were talking earlier, the meta is kind of shifting back into a 4 protect 1. So like the position 1, yeah, he needs to be farming. He needs to know when to rotate and take fights and when to just push objectives, which are towers, which are, ancient stacks, all that. And then position 2 and 3, they're a little bit more utility at the moment, I would say. So your mid laner responsible for rotating to other lanes to get kills, to free up map space for the carry to get farm. And the position 3 is similar to that. It's just the lane is much more difficult because you're generally 1 versus 3 in the off lane. So it's more about getting experience and skill-based rather than item-based.
Yeah. When I played, I was the offlaner for our team, so I can, that position in particular has changed a lot. So there's, I guess, the positions as I've understood them over time have really changed. Like there has been mid has been one play style at one point, and now it's another play style, and like you said, safe lane position 1 has changed. It's become more 4 protect 1 as it has before. So Gino, do you want to talk about like how some of these roles shift, like how some of the roles change?
I wanted to first just mention, like, how do you pick which of those roles you end up with? Is it a character preference that just happened? It turns out this character is really suited for this role, or is it a matter of I really want to be the person who decides whether we win this game or not, or I'm a really supporting sort of person, and so I want to make sure that our team has success, and I'll do the dirty work. I am the lineman of this team. I am the garbage man who's going to get all the little stuff that no one sees. I'm setting picks, just all over the place.
I think for me, the 4-5 role, I enjoy it. It's more of a, if you're going to say the 1 through 3 roles are more like a tactical role, I'd say the 4-5 more like a strategic role, in that you're not concerned with what's happening right there in your lane. You're not focused on the last hit. You're focused on the entire map and trying to identify your team's deficiencies, where you're blind, and then what the other team is doing. You're almost to a sense more concerned with what the other team is doing with what your hero is doing, and you need to be able to kind of assume the fact that when these fights start, that you're the last priority in terms of coming out alive. So you're usually not going to make it. And you need to be. It takes a certain kind of player to realize, hey, I'm going to die a lot, and especially in a game like Dota, where in the public sense it can be a harsh environment. Being called a noob or a scrub or a feeder is oftentimes a common stance for a 4-5 player. But no, that's what attracted me to it. I'm probably not the best last hitter in the world, So I often yield the 1 through 3 to my very focused comrades in the clan and focus on the more big picture stuff.
And what happens in a game, pub or tournament or otherwise, when one of these positions breaks down and fails? What are some of the consequences that result as one of these positions maybe fails at accomplishing their basic tasks? It could be position 4 failing, it could be off lane failing, it could be mid failing. What are some of the consequences?
Well, I think Olive talked about how, your 1 through 3 are more item dependent. For me, as a 4 through 5, it's not. I don't typically need an item, to make myself relevant. I'm more reliant on my abilities and my positioning. So for me, it'd be failing to get maybe observation up in time. It'd be failing to have a TP and able to respond to a teammate that needed me. It'd be not being able to cast my ultimate because I was blowing my mana load. To use the phrase, on a creep camp, and I can't cast my ultimate now, and then we lose a team fight because of it. So when things like that happen, for me as a 5, I feel like I've failed the team. I don't know. Linden, you want to talk about kind of 1 through 3?
Yeah, like 1 through 3, or especially right now, the mid position is super important. Just if they get that level ahead, or even so much as a bounty rune early, you can lose mid, and that can really pressure your team right away. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as position 1 through 3 goes, it's all about efficiency. Efficiency with farming, efficiency with experience gain, with rotations. Yeah. If you're going to be rotating from mid, you better get a kill, or you're behind in experience and gold. If you're the carry in lane, if you're missing last hits, you're just falling further behind on the graphs, and that'll cost you in 6 minutes or so.
And one of the overarching themes that Gino and I are trying to hit is that this game is always evolving, always shifting. So sure. you mentioned something early, like getting the first rune or getting an early bounty rune. I asked a question earlier, but we'll come back to it. The question I asked earlier was about how the roles have changed. But let's talk about how Dota architecturally has changed over the last maybe year or so. Last year, we didn't have bounty runes at the 0-minute mark. It was totally different.
Yeah. Right.
So how has Dota shifted just since you guys have been playing from a basic architectural standpoint that have made major impacts in the game? Like for me, I think the whole minute 0 interaction is way different now than it used to be.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a big meta shift, a map change. Roshan Pit moved at that time. The game at the time was all death push, and they made some major changes with towers and glyphs, so that would basically stop. These 20-minute games would stop, and I think they wanted to get it more into team fight based, and they accomplished it for a while. So they added the bounty runes to force, I think, teams to protect the runes more because they were so important as far as gold and experience goes. So you see a lot of more people group up 5 people on one rune, whereas before you just have people trying to creep block and just get in their lanes, maybe get some vision out. But yeah, it's definitely more focused, I guess, on these early objectives like bounties and Roshan. And I don't know, Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so TI4, when I was there in Seattle, as an observer, obviously not a participant, but it was definitely the sense of the push being kind of in the meta, and that definitely has shifted. But like we said, that you were kind of going back to this 4 protect 1 kind of feel of the game where you're seeing a lot of Spectre play, a lot of AM play, heroes that are able to kind of split push, but at the same time either get out or get back into the fight quickly. That's why you've seen maybe more even Ember play too in that sense. So yeah, the game has changed, and one of the big things that changed is it's not necessarily the heroes that change, even though the heroes like you said are constantly changing. The items are constantly changing or being added to, but really it's kind of what they do to the map. Like Linden said, they moved where Roshan was. They decreased the value of the jungle camps. They increased the armor of the towers. The way the gold swings now versus the way the gold swing a year ago is completely different. The way last hits work.
Even ticking gold is different now.
Mm-hmm.
So how has some of these changes? Now we can talk a little bit about how the positions have changed a little bit. how have some of these changes that seem to be architectural changes in nature, how have these shift or forced new paradigms of play to develop? Like, I guess I'll ask a more specific question. Let's take Ticking Gold for example. How has that changed the position 4 and 5 role?
It's I found it easier now, especially with the dual runes. If nothing else, it's easier to make money and be relevant from an economic standpoint. The value of the jungle has gone down, but they've added 2 jungles on each side of the map, so there's more neutrals there. Just to pick from in general. So
Ticking Gold, I mean, in case someone doesn't know, is like every second the game clock counts. Every player in the game gets, I think, 1 or like 1.2 gold or something, and that changed from like half a gold a second, like last year or something, and that's made a big difference in supports. They normally get no money. Now they just automatically generate small amounts of money that can keep them more relevant. So
yeah, even as far as like getting brown boots goes, like they drop these support item costs, ward costs, able to buy 1 ward at a time. Like this all helped position 4 and 5 be more relevant in the pub sense, at least.
And I guess more fun to play if you're getting to do stuff.
Yeah. And it's hard to tell sometimes when they add an update or a patch. Are they focused on the competitive scene, or are they trying to make the game more user friendly kind of for everyone? When they make things like the TP cheaper, or the smokes cheaper now, are they trying to make it easier for the pros? Or are they trying to make it easier to kind of get back into the game or get into the game if you've never played it before?
Yeah,
I felt like it was kind of both, actually, because
Right.
it made a new player not get punished so much for dying. You could afford a TP when you respawn easier, but then it made the pro games better because less of their time was spent doing that boring stuff, and they could do more of the interesting things in the game.
So when I've paid attention to Dota, and for people who only intermittently pay attention to Dota, there are phrases stylistic terms that people use to describe different strategies, like Chinese Dota, where people are just kind of hiding and trying to get as much money, or rat Dota, I believe are those the same? Do those imply the same sort of thing? And all those different strategies, or big pushing styles, where everyone is playing a character who traditionally would be a 4 or a 5, but because everyone has picked them, all of a sudden you're going on towers at minute 2 or 3, where ordinarily you wouldn't be pushing them until minute 10 or even later. So I was wondering what governs the gigantic stylistic changes where 1 minute it's 4 protect 1, next minute it's all out push strategies. This is all I guess you guys mentioned some of this is just rebalances to the map and rebalances to the mechanics. Is some of it just you see pros do this and so it inspires other people to try the same thing, or are you experimenting with different ways to deploy the mechanics in those earlier strategies?
I think whenever one of the larger competitions comes out and everything, with an update is kind of showcased at the top tier level, the meta always swings kind of with what people are doing. And you see, Arteezy do something at the 7.5K level. You're going to see that trickle down to like the 3K level where guys are trying to pull off the same thing. And, does it always work? No. It typically doesn't always work, but you do see that. So pros kind of drive it. The addition or the nerfing of items kind of drives it too. Game by game, once you get past the drafting phase, it really comes down to, it's almost situation dependent in the sense that, it's not going to be farm in the early game that kind of drives the ability to gank. It's just going to be, how successful were, our early game ganks, or how successful were, if we decided a jungle was our ability to jungle, or did they try and pull something off and fail, and we got a huge gold swing in our favor. So it's kind of hard to nail it down to one thing or the other, but there are a bunch of contributing factors.
So back when I was playing, especially when I was in a team, this was definitely the last year Dota as opposed to this year Dota. I want to know if this is still relevant. There was this triangle, like this rock paper scissors of turtling style, like 4 protect 1, versus pushing style, where you try to ram down the other team's base early before they get any kind of advantage. And there was like a ganking tactical style where you try to, instead of gain control of the map, you just like get kills to create disadvantages on the team, more so than getting advantages for yourself, like creating disadvantages as opposed to advantages by ganking heavily. Is this like rock paper scissors of like large game trends still relevant, or is it more up in the air based on things like the draft phase and stuff?
I think it's mostly on the draft phase, because you got to realize what the other team's going for. So if you see a pick come in that represents maybe a push lineup, you're going to look to either counter push or look for more defensive, take it late game kind of strat. I mean, you still see it with teams like Newbie, who won TI 3. Is that right, Steve? The one that you were at, probably?
4.
TI 4, yeah. So you see it with them. They're still running death ball pushes, and it works some of the time. It doesn't work every time, though. So it all comes down to the draft, it seems like.
Okay. So one of the analogies that I always think of with Dota, I think the chess analogy certainly works, but I tend to think of it as basketball, because it's a five player. Everyone has usually has a very distinct established role.
Do you think of a lot of things like basketball?
That's true.
It's one of the only languages that you're fluent in.
This is the cleanest. This is one of the cleanest analogies. It's really it's 5 player.
Nothing's clean about Dota. Let's just get something right out in the open.
There's that part in every basketball game where a bunch of like random people run onto the court, and then the players have to take them out, and they get money when they do.
You know,
it's exactly.
I guess
the same.
like the tip off is like the runes, like the minute.
It's exactly like that. It's exactly like that.
Like where does the quelling blade come in? Is that for getting the guy's Achilles so he can't throw up a rebound? Or
all I know is I remember Steph Curry in an interview was like, I remember when I claimed the rune by hitting my 3-point shot, and it really put us ahead for the rest of the game.
You know, my team was able to set a nice pick and then snag Roshan. You know, the other team couldn't expect it.
I hope that one day in the not too distant future, the esports arm of ESPN becomes big enough that one of the announcers goes, and then he grabs Roshan and throws it down the hoop. Just takes it to the rack.
Catchphrases.
I mean, ESPN did cover the international, right? The recent TI5?
They actually launched an ESPN esports recently. They have their own esports page. Oddly enough, it's growing. It's growing in a real way. But the way I was thinking about it was, for a long time, especially in at least American sports that I'm familiar with, like football, basketball, you have, for a while, people thought of the game as being highly structured. This is your position. This is your role. Here's what you do. Do your thing. Centers are 7 feet tall. They block shots. They set picks. That's what they do. And recently, teams like the Golden State Warriors have started trying to playing positionless basketball, and kind of said, hey, what if everyone just was capable of doing everything instead of focusing on putting everyone in these tight boxes? If everyone can do kind of a little bit of everything, then everyone can adapt depending on what the game calls for and what the moment-to-moment game situation requires you to do. So I was wondering, is there such a style in Dota? Can a team pick 5 characters that any one of you could be the 5 or the 1 depending on how the breaks go? Outside of a pub.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, inside of a pub, like
inside of a pub, anything is possible.
Witch Doctor gets a triple kill, and then he just gets eggs, and he's now position 1 hard carry.
Inside of a pub, you're going to see, you run the chance of seeing 5 position 1s, each in the middle lane. So, no, I think you can have a definition of what that would look like, and that's going to look more like your early push, strong mid game kind of team where all the heroes have, they're not all ultra item reliant. They do need some level of farm, but their abilities are strong enough so that they have an advantage in that early and that mid game, so they can take objectives. Of course, and running that is feasible, and you see it all the time. The problem with the current meta is with how strong towers are, among other things, is that you will get punished pretty hard if you fail in your efforts to push in that early to mid game. You'll kind of get picked apart into almost a snowball where 30, 40 minutes in the game, if you fail to kind of break the enemy team's barracks, you're getting pushed. You're getting pushed back in yourself. So.
And so, what characters, I guess, would lend themselves to a style of play that is not so focused on feeding a carry? Are there characters that can kind of fend for themselves without a 4 and a 5, specifically babysitting them for much of the early game? Like, if everyone is playing a character that's competent, then not everyone can necessarily be supporting at any given moment, or farming, for that matter.
Linden, you want to take it? Or me take it?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Cut the end of it.
So this is just my opinion, but I'd say it's going to be heroes that have either an aura or a sustain. So some heroes just have, through their ability pool, either an aura that gives, increased damage, increased armor, increased attack speed, or an ability to heal or increase mana regen. So if you assemble a team of heroes that, has this lane sustain, or this ability to stay in lane and push while the enemy team does not, if they're mana dependent, or if everyone's hit point dependent, but the ability to regen, if they don't have that and they have to go back to Fountain, or they're spending money on instead of utility items, they're spending money on things like salves and clarities, then that's going to kind of give you an advantage in that early kind of mid game sense.
Cool. So I was wondering, how much in kind of your tournament experience and your tournament preparation, how much time do you guys spend looking for your own strategies versus studying up on strategies that seem to already be established either by the pro scene or by people who are writing about the game?
Linda, you want to take that one?
Yeah, like I think a lot of it, at least in my perspective, comes from pro teams, because they know what synergizes well with each other. So you kind of watch how that plays out in their games, and you try to replicate that maybe. But there's definitely, out of the 116 heroes, there's multiple ways that you can synergize as far as boosts, regen, ganking ability. Just depends what you're going for, and you have to keep in mind the other team's doing the same thing as well. So a lot of it's counter picks, a lot of it's your own strategy as well that changes, that minute that you have to pick. So
how much of the game is decided by the draft phase?
I think that depends on what MMR you are.
Yeah.
What level of play. It might sound like a cop-out answer, but watching some of the lower MMR games, it seems like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who picks what hero. It's more like
who can execute.
Yeah. Who can execute? Who at the end of the day decides to get online, stop being selfish, and go put a ward out and buy some smoke is going to win the game. But I think the reason the pro scene is run the way it's run with picks and bans is it's for a reason. And there's a lot of thought that goes into that. I think at our level, it matters. There's an impact to it. And I know when Olive's doing a draft, he spends a lot of time, looking at what the enemy team's picking, how to counterpick, or what to ban in. Kind of forecasting what we will be picking or what his team will be picking at the time. But I don't know, Linden?
I think the game's a lot more balanced now than it was a year ago. So I think a lot of it's based on that player's skill with that hero.
There were
because there's 80, I think there was 80 heroes picked in the last major. So
I was going to say, probably a year or 2 years ago, TI had 20 heroes in its play pool, and now we're at 80 or 90, almost 80% of the heroes get picked, at least in one game during the qualifiers or bracket.
And you see basic examples of it just in, say, an Alliance game. You'll see a Nature's Prophet ban, which a year ago wouldn't have ever been banned, but it's a team's core pick. They can win a game strictly off of that. So,
and sometimes, especially at the high level of play, we'll see drafts, and post-draft or during the game we'll see wow, so-and-so team has a lot of ground to cover. They have a lot of pressure on them because if they don't accomplish X, Y, and Z by this time, they just lose because of the draft. I mean, how does that happen in a draft if a team just straight up loses because of the draft? How does a team not predict and plan for whatever draft is coming their way? Don't they get 3 or 4 picks to know what they're doing?
I think a pro team, at our level, it's a little different, but I think for pros, I would assume that they're going into the match not just knowing the heroes, but knowing their competitors and what they're good at and what they're bad at. So, a lot of those bans are going to be respect bans, and, an enemy team might go into it being and this is something we saw at 5 was, they're going to ban the techies. So we'll waste one of our 5 bands right off the bat just for techies. And is techies a relevant hero? Well, he was made relevant by some of those matches. Yeah.
Team Secret, I think, had like a pocket techies pick, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And didn't OG have like a pocket Meepo pick on Big Daddy? Wasn't that true?
Was it?
It might have.
Which team that was? Yeah.
One
of them
thought
had
it
a
was
pocket
No
Meepo,
Tail,
yeah.
and also I think Weehaw played Meepo.
Weehaw did, yeah.
Yeah, is he on Secret? I forget what team Weehaw's on. This is actually another good question. People freaking change teams all the time.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, there's so much on the line now. You're talking $3 million pools to $10 million pools. They're just trying to find some synergy and go for the big tournament. But
Yeah, Weehaw's on Team Secret.
yeah, he's on Secret now. Yeah.
So, I guess discussing characters and pocket characters, who are your favorite characters and why? Like, if you had to pick one and say, I can only play as this one character for the next 20, 30 games, that's infinite years, right? In Dota, 20, 30 games, that's an infinity amount of time.
It's a casual weekend,
Yeah. That's 2 weeks for me. I think that's a good solid day and a half for Linden. So
Yeah.
I'll go first. I play so again 4-5. If I could only play one here, I would go with Pudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. But I don't play him the way that I think he was played, or has traditionally been played for a while. I play him more in the 4 role, assuming kind of a ganking role. And the reason that is the Aether Lens has given his hook a tremendous amount of impact. Along with the Agnum Scepter, that cooldown being 4 seconds is absurd. You're able to smoke in early in the game, get the ganks, get the pickoffs, and that rot, the way they kind of have rot going now, where it's a flat, slow, makes him very effective at pulling off a successful gank. I mean, there's a little pressure to get that early hook, but once you do, if you get that hook, you're probably going to walk away with a kill.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to gravitate. At least in my pub experience, you have like maybe a 50% chance of seeing a Pudge.
It's always,
It's always
Pudge, me mid, please. And then that's the only thing that they say the whole game.
Yes, and then I'm over in the long lane, and I always look. He's in the bushes. He's there. You don't have. I didn't put a ward down, but he's there. Just stay safe.
We hear his little chains rattling. He's over there, scratching his stitches.
I hear lips smacking right now.
Oh, fresh meat.
So I guess Billy, you too. Which, if you could pick one character?
If I could pick one character, and that was the only character that I could play for a while, it would be Wind Ranger. She has my most games. She constitutes my playstyle so well. This actually is a character that can play every single role in the game right now, and that didn't used to be the case. She was kind of restricted to support off lane before, and then she got like an Aghanim Scepter upgrade last year that made her have carry potential. So I was really happy to see that, and that happened before I was playing her a lot. She's a hero that can be super tactical with positioning of her really good stun ability. She can be super tactical with using her primary early game damage dealing spell with scouting for vision, as well as dealing burst damage to opponents. She has an escape mechanism, and her ultimate is good for pushing down towers. So depending on how you build her, she can do anything. I'm so in love with that hero. I could just play her all the time.
All right, same question to you, Olive.
I couldn't narrow it down to one, but I'll give you
have to pick
3.
Okay, fine, 3. Fine.
I'd probably go. I'm definitely more of a utility player. I do like micro as well, so I'd probably have to go with Meepo and Rubik. Possibly Nature's Prophet too. I like my push strats. So yeah, those are my 3. Those are my top 3 favorites to play for sure.
All right,
I expected
Gino.
you to say Invoker when you said I liked micro.
I don't have that type of time.
Gino, who are you?
Ogre Magi.
No question.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. This
It's
guy
Ogre Magi.
This guy is an ogre player. He doesn't play, but he's just. It's all ogre now.
It's just.
Learn on.
It's a great hero.
It's almost ogre now.
I saw a video on YouTube the other day where what's his starting armor now for Ogre? 8? Is it 8?
7 or 8.
7, I think. Yeah.
Sick regen.
I think the guy started with Orb of Venom and Boots, and he completely man-fought 3 guys by himself with just his slow. This is all everyone's level 1, but strong hero.
Base
Not a
armor
bad
is
pick.
7 right now.
Yeah, strong.
Ogre was not strong when I played, but I enjoy luck. I enjoy strong elements of luck. I enjoy when he hits jackpot and then you get the little ka-ching noise. I enjoy just walking by people and then going, "Hey, you have blood rush. Go ahead. What if you were bigger and moved faster? Go." And then sometimes I get it, and then sometimes a creep gets it, and that's not as exciting.
You can put it on towers now too, which is fun.
Yeah. Do the towers grow?
They do. They get
Oh.
bigger.
Nice.
Yeah, so at least for me, the reason why I liked Ogre so much is that you are constantly a threat that for a stun, like a really meaningful, long, scary stun that your opponent, it could just be a really short stun, but if you hit jackpot, all of a sudden someone who was in a really good position is stunned for like 2 seconds and just takes a bajillion damage. And once you get an Aghanim Scepter, you can just between his regular stun and then the blue stun, the red and the blue fire blasts. I forget what the name of the stun is.
It's refined and unrefined.
But the blue and the red, between the two of them, you can keep someone locked down for a pretty solid amount of time. And he's a character that doesn't carry well and does not do super well in the end game. But because of that constant threat of jackpots, you can just impact a team fight in a way that he has no business impacting it. So
I think
low-level
that's a fair
players.
assessment. I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, like the same thing with Pudge, or same thing. It's not just the fact that there's a Pudge on the map. It's that the fact when you don't see the Pudge, it's where's the Pudge, or like with the Ricky, it's where's the Ricky. You never know what the Ricky
Or
is.
even like a techies player. Or
Yeah.
anything. You're just...
It's sometimes it's not just the fight. It's not just the right clicks and the ability. It's the psychological warfare aspect of it too, which makes it fun.
One of the things that governed like the heroes that I chose for a long time, probably all of the heroes that I've chosen to play in the last year or so have been who's the guy that makes these videos? The Art of Juking videos. Hexor is a player. I don't know if he's relevant in the competitive scene these days, but there was these videos called The Art of Juking, and it was just compilation videos of him or other players like insanely moving through trees and getting great shackles and getting amazing hooks and getting like just amazing play that involved super strict timings and narrowly escaping. And I was like, wow, that's so exciting. So I picked up Wind Ranger and started playing like that, and it's just been amazing. I picked up like Darkseer to play like that too. Sand King does some really cool juking. It's really freaking cool how some of these heroes can make stuff happen. So that's been governing a lot of my play recently.
So we all mentioned what characters we like and what element of even some of the elements. I was wondering, what is your favorite thing to do in Dota personally? Like mine is hitting a stun. I enjoy just going jackpot and then you are shut down for 2 seconds, and that sets up everyone else to just go whole hog. I don't need to be the person who gets the kills. I actually hate right-clicking people to death. I hate just attacking people to death. I love playing characters who have a single big point of impact spell that happens instantaneously. But I was wondering, what do you guys especially enjoy?
So beyond the enemy team's ancient popping, I would have to say when everything kind of culminates into one, and I'll use actually we played a scrim a few hours ago that went pretty well, but it's when you have the map awareness and the team communication that all kind of syncs up, and you see and you know where the enemy team is, and you either smoke in on a flank or you get behind them and you hit them right at that critical point where you're able to lay down your abilities in succession, and whether it's a bunch of good ultimates at once or boom boom boom,
Everything just lines up perfect.
Everything lines up perfectly.
So sweet.
you go from that point in your mind where it's like, this game is a game and I'm not sure if we're going to walk away from it, to we're probably getting a set of towers, we're probably going to crack racks, and we might start hitting on tier 4s. When that happens, that's probably like the best feeling in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think 100% what Steve's saying. It's just like, it's the outplay. Like, whether it's a team contribution outplay or even just a one-on-one. Just turning around what they were doing and sticking it to them.
I kind of said this already, but my favorite thing is doing everything that my hero can do and escaping with like 1% HP. Like, I'll play like a Darkseer, blink in, lay down my ultimate, vacuum wall, put an ion shell on like my Spirit Breaker, and they go on me. I like pop pipe, mech, and then I surge out with like 12 health left, and I know that I've done everything. I'm out. I'm good, guys.
Yeah, moonwalk away.
Yeah, just
when
casually slip out.
When I was playing Morphling fairly regularly, I would
I had
always
no business playing that hero, man.
I had no business at all. He is everything I don't like to do, but I just really enjoyed cloning a hero on my team, cloning them, sending the clone to the fountain, and then just diving in on my opponent, and then as soon as I was low on health, just hitting the R button and jumping to fountain. Just peace. I'm gone. Sorry. I got things to do.
That's what we have Ember Spirit for now, who does the exact same thing way easier.
Ah, boo.
Unfortunately, sorry.
You mentioned team communication and how much that plays into like these big swings of team fights. And I was wondering, so when you're in a gigantic team fight, how, or just throughout the game, how are you communicating? Do you have shorthand for communicating? Because there's a lot of things that need to be said in a very short amount of time, especially in a team fight. Like, it's bedlam as soon as people start popping ults.
I'll speak my piece quick. There are all abbreviations we use. So the 3 lanes is a good example. So top lane, people just say top. People say mid, bot. I like to use the phrase pipe for anyone in the river, because I kind of think of it in terms of a pipe that, once they get in the river, there's only a couple places they can come out, so we know he's in the pipe. Pings, so you have the ability to either ping or throw an X on the map. For us, usually ping means go, or this is a point of interest. X means nope, do not do this, do not touch this. You need to back up right now. But then we also use voice, so we don't all live in the same house. So using a voice client, we use TeamSpeak, and we have to work on communication, and it's especially in a clan of 30, 40 guys that play Dota on a fairly regular basis. You get different people in there, and people that communicate differently. So that is something we are always improving.
Is that the same in tournament play, or is that more casual?
In what sense?
The way you communicate, is it the same? Like, do you communicate the same in pubs as you do in a tournament style?
I'll say my part quick, and I think Linden's probably going to jump in. But for us, in the clan sense, they're kind of like overarching rules, and even at that, guys don't always agree on what that means. Sometimes a ping for one is a ping that means something to someone else completely differently. But I think for Linden and his team, they kind of have kind of standard operating procedures on how they do things.
Yeah, like I think once you're in a tournament, you're a bit more serious about it, and it's generally down to one person, whether that's the captain, whether that's another position, but someone who's responsible for the calls. So
that kind of lines up.
Yeah, like if you say go in and one person doesn't go in, that can cost you the fight, or you can lose the fight in general anyways. So I don't know, it's just it's all about just communication and getting the point across, and when there's a breakdown in that, it's usually very clear in the play and what happens as a result.
Who is usually, either position-wise or player-wise, the type of person who makes the calls in game? Is it your position one that makes the calls? Are they the one that's governing the whole gameplay, or can that like vary from playstyle to playstyle?
I think generally it would be position 3 through 5 would be the ones, just because they have the overall map awareness of what's going on. The carry's usually focused on farming and getting objectives, and isn't always, like the other 4 could be fighting on the other side of the map and he doesn't know what's going on. He's just waiting for, do I TP in or not?
Yeah, I think
scenario.
a typical theme these days is the captain and drafter of professional teams are usually the position 4 or 5 players. So.
Yeah, I think in general. What do you think, Steve?
No, I agree with everything Lyndon's saying. I just add on to that there's certain criteria sometimes that, regardless of who says what, a fight's going to happen, and that might be, your number one. All of a sudden, he pings and he's like, I'm surrounded. They smoked and we didn't notice it, and I'm surrounded. Well, guess what? There's probably going to be a team fight right then and there. Or if your one decides, hey, I'm feeling good, and guess what? I just popped my BKB either on purpose or maybe on accident. So there's things. There's always
fat finger of BKB.
Yeah,
Oops,
exactly.
Sorry guys, we're going in.
If my one pops his 10-second BKB, we have to capitalize on it. We have to make something happen. So yeah, no, I agree with what Lyndon's saying. Though it's usually it's going to be the 4-5s that kind of make the kind of strategic plays.
Yeah, when someone's staring at little health bars on creeps, it's a little bit harder to stare at anything else, I suppose. When that is your
whole
moment
world
to moment.
shrinks when you're position 1 hard carry. Your world is just so tiny,
until you make their world tiny.
Until you choose the hero named Tiny, and you get huge with a tree, and now you're hitting everything.
Yes. You make their world. The only thing they need to care about is when they respawn.
That's probably part of the reason why, like, the 4 or 5 position they say is the hardest one to play, which I agree on for a lot of ways, I guess.
I guess it's like the least straightforward position how to play. Right?
Yeah, because you're always behind. You don't have items. It's positioning. It's map awareness.
Like a hero like Anti-Mage has been figured out. There's like 2 builds on Anti-Mage. It's there's a little more variance than that, but a hero like Anti-Mage is your typical position 1 hard carry. We know how that hero works. You get a Battle Fury, you get Manta Style, you get like some kind of like sustain item like a heart or an AC or something, and then you just get huge and unstoppable, and you can take on their whole team. But positions 4 and 5 aren't like that. So how much variance is there in a position 4 or 5 like gameplay?
I think a lot of it's like item timings. Even as a position 4 or 5, say Blink Dagger's your item, you just need say Tranquil Boots and a Blink Dagger, and that's the best you could ever hope for in a game. If you get that Blink Dagger at 14 minutes versus 26 minutes, it's a huge impact on the game. Yeah. Same way you could say for a position 1 Anti-Mage, if you aren't getting your Battle Fury at 12 minutes, you're getting it at 24 minutes, you probably lost the game. So it all depends. Go ahead, Steve?
Yeah, items. Items is a big piece of it. We say that 4-5s aren't item dependent, but there are specifically items that we've seen kind of now in the meta that they've released that kind of drive what the 4-5 kind of steep to build if they do their job in the early phases and make some pocket gold. So I know we're looking at talking about Aether Lens, Dragon Lens, and Glimmer Cape. So Glimmer Cape and Aether Lens are kind of the 2 big huge ones now we're seeing get built a lot. I know they nerfed the heck out of Glimmer Cape because the magic resistance, and it's just made that thing pretty broken.
Now, what are those new items for people who might not play too much Dota? What do they do?
So Aether Lens is an ability it's an item. It's going to give you increased mana. It's going to give you increased health regen, and it's going to make your point cast abilities go out, I believe, an additional 200 units.
That's correct.
And then Glimmer Cape, and this is me doing it from memory, but Glimmer Cape is a 4.5 second fade time invisibility that no longer gives you magic resistance. It used to give you magic resistance. It no longer does.
I think it passively does for the holder, right? But you can't use it on someone to give them more magic resist. Is that right?
No, you can still cast it. You just can't. It doesn't. It was like 55% magic resistance, but now they bumped it back down to like 15 or 20%. So
45%.
Instead of being 50% invulnerable to magic.
Yeah, it was pretty broken for the price too.
It's 15% magic resist now.
Yeah, 50. I think it was like 55% before. It was dumb. It was dumb, and it was cheap.
Oh no,
it was like 1,500 gold.
It's passively granting 15% to the holder, but on cast it gives 45%.
45.
Yeah. Used to be a little bit more. I know that.
Yeah, so Aether Lens extends the cast range of spells by 200 units, which for most of those spells is like a 20% increase of your range. 20 or 25% increase of of your range, and then Glimmer Cape is an item that can make a person be invisible and also more resistant to magic, and Dragonlance.
What is a Dragonlance? Tell me about the Dragonlance.
Well, Dragonlance is run you about I think 1850 or 1900.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's again another cheap item that has phenomenal impact in a team fight. It's going to increase attack speed, attack range, and it's going to give you health stats. And that's critical for heroes like Sniper or Drow, where their base strength is low and they're incredibly squishy. So if you're trying to stay away from the fight but still have an impact in the fight and hit harder and survive longer, Dragonlance is your ticket.
And you can disassemble it as well. So
Yeah, that's
someone like Drow, it's 2 parts to a BKB butterfly. So
Someone like Enchantress, who is one of my favorite Dragonlance holders, can split it up into Aghanim Scepter and what's it called? Orchid Malevolence. It's a good split for her.
So, if you guys are playing the game the way you want to play it, what style of Dota do you prefer? Like all push or 4 protect 1, or what is your platonic ideal of Dota?
mine's definitely push, 4 protect 1 push. Yeah, that's definitely my road to it.
Like 4 people push and then one person's like the backup.
Yeah, like kind of have a backup plan. But if you can deathball it in 30 minutes, 25 minutes, that's definitely the route that I like going. Just push objectives, make space. If you can get a pick off and immediately push 2 towers, that's kind of how I like to play.
Until you said towers, that sounded like you could have been describing a basketball play. You create some space,
pressing the whole
good
time,
pick.
Just press the court.
We're
good
man
pick.
to man. We're just making sure we're all up in their face.
Exactly. Billy, what about you?
I'll say that I really like fighting against other players and having these skill versus skill matches. So I sort of tend towards the ganking role and ganking playstyle. When I played on a team, I was the offlaner, and the heroes that I played a lot were like Clockwork, who's got a huge range move that basically like launches him into a battlefield and like surprises your opponent. I also
basically got the Bionic Commando hook shot.
Yeah, from fucking Marvel, Bionic Arm.
Yes.
I played like Timbersaw a lot. I played Nature's Prophet a lot because those heroes can just jump into a fight unexpected and oops, you've just turned the tide of battle. It's instead of it being a person is attacking your safe lane carry and they're backing up behind their tower and they're diving in trying to get a kill. Oops, you just turn the tide of the fight by getting a big hook shot or getting a big Timber Chain or getting a big Tidehunter Blink Ult or getting something. Or oops, there's a Nature's Prophet here now and they're surrounded by little baby trees. So this sort of play style is typically in that sort of ganking role, and that's one that I like the most. I think I had another question relating to the items. There was another big item change that I wanted to talk really quickly about, just for a minute. Well, one of my favorite item changes, and that was that Yule Scepter deals a small amount of damage. I think that was really big for a lot of heroes. It basically activated a lot of heroes that were previously unplayable. Some of them I'm thinking about are like Jakiro, Lina, Leshrac, these heroes that just like were really hard to fit into a composition, but now they make a lot more sense. So how did this item change affect your guys' play?
The 2 big changes that I think that we've seen on Yule's has been 1, the ability you can no longer cast it on allies, and then 2, the effective range for it. But
when did you cast it on allies?
Oh,
I mean,
a while back.
Yeah, you used to be able to always do.
I never knew that. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was
Protect them.
always. I thought it was always enemy only.
What was that like, Linden? What was that like? TI3? You could do that.
Yeah, definitely TI3. You could.
Or
wow.
you could. Yeah.
I think it was
So
like 6.84. They might have changed it.
How did I know that and you didn't?
I
Maybe
guess-
I'm the Dota expert on this podcast.
So those are the big 2 ones. So they nerfed the range on it, which hurts. Aether Lens makes it more relevant of an item, but
Aether Lens Yules on Jakiro, baby.
so good. Oh,
So
it's so good. It's such a good item. But no. So the damage matters in the sense that if someone has a blink dagger, you're not going to Yules them, and they're not just going to blink away, and they're not going to say thank you for the Yules. I'll see you guys later. It's nope, you're not blinking anywhere, and you're dead, homeboy. So
Yeah,
no,
when a hero takes damage from a hero source, the item called Blink Dagger, which lets them have a small short-range teleport. It goes on a temporary cooldown of 3 seconds. So the fact that Yule Scepter used to deal no damage meant that, great, you just made your opponent invincible for 3 seconds. If their Blink was on cooldown for some other reason, they basically get like a free escape. But now it does a very small, almost negligible amount of damage, other than it disables your Blink if you have a Blink Dagger.
So it does a token amount of damage just to screw with Blink Dagger?
Yeah,
pretty
like
much?
if you have a Blink
Basically, yeah.
Dagger on someone and you use them, they are now at maximum, like they're just at most at their walking speed, so you can predict better to set up stuns and stuff.
It's also going to remove buffs.
True,
Certain buffs.
It does purge a lot of buffs.
Crazy. Yeah, so, Olive, you did not get a chance to mention your... Steve did not mention. Steve did not mention. So if you were playing, you were the captain of the team, you're saying, this is how we're going to play. I am the coach of this team. This is how Dota is meant to be played.
Put a team on my back. I got this, fam.
No 3-point shots in my Dota.
We're just taking it into the paint.
So if I could be king for a day, I'd probably run the 1-1-3. So it'd be a single man in the off lane, single guy in the middle, and then two guys supporting a hard carry in the safe. You want to have that because you want to be able to flex either your two supports or your ganker support to the other lanes, either one support or two, maybe get a couple picks. But I'm a big fan of the 5-man push. I think Olive is too, in that I know the meta might be shifting more towards a 4 protect 1, but I'd like having the entire team there. And if that means we have to pick up a Spectre and she's going to Spectre in with her ult, and then we're all there and we're all holding hands while we fight, so be it. But what kills me is when we have these fights and it's well, we probably could have won that, but we had you in the jungle, you didn't have a TP, and we need to work on our communication, or we need to at least work on our ability to have the items that let us get to the team fight when they happen. So no, I like a mid game team. It is harder now to crack that tier 3 in that Rax. They've made that harder, and the way you're punished for it a little bit more. So I'm still a fan of it, though. I'd like to be able to push in that mid game as a team if I can.
I'll say one of the other times that I really like to play is that ultra late game. Like, it's bonkers. Like, everyone's got like 2 lanes of racks down. We have no idea like who has
Chaos.
any vision on them. It's descended into complete madness.
Yeah.
I feel like I get more comfortable in a game of Dota the less things make sense. And the more it's just like instinct, just do something.
I'm just going to stun. Why'd you stun that creep? Who's looking at me funny?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to use your ultimate to clear that creep wave, or else it's going to just run your base down.
There's divine rapiers laying on the ground.
Yeah, you just have no idea what's going on anymore. I think I won a game 2 weeks ago as I was playing Jakiro, and they had mega creeps, and my whole job was just don't let our base die while the other 4 guys fought. And we won. I had to play a totally different game of don't get mega creeped to death.
So, speaking of sub-games, I was wondering, of the heroes that kind of just completely change the way Dota plays, something like Techies, Meepo...
Spirit Breaker, Pudge.
Spirit Breaker, Pudge does this a little bit. What's his name? Tinker, Nature's Prophet. The character, Ricky, too. There are some characters that just, as soon as they are in the game...
change how the game is played, yeah.
This is no longer a game of lanes. This is no longer... All of a sudden, different items become relevant. How do you feel about those kind of characters in terms of playing them or playing against them? Do you enjoy it, that there's these characters that just operate on a completely different axis than everyone else?
No, I think you have to have heroes like that. I mean, if it was a game of all just right-clicker heroes, it wouldn't be the game that it is. And the more depth they add to it by different heroes with different abilities and different angles of the game, I think that's what makes Dota what it is. No, I enjoy it. I mean, do I get frustrated with it at times? As a 4-5 getting stabbed to death by a Nyx player because we can't afford the obs to safeguard for something like that. Sure, but I mean that's what makes the game. If it wasn't frustrating, then it wouldn't be rewarding at the same time when we win.
Yeah, I have to. At least when I'm in a game, and not a pub game, not someone, that this person has picked Meepo, but they shouldn't have picked Meepo. We know that they don't know what they're doing.
I love playing Meepo, honestly.
Why is one Meepo in their base all by himself, and then the other Meepos are over in the jungle? This is a bad plan,
Gino,
Meepo.
you don't even know about some of the new heroes that are out right now. Like
No,
you
I
don't
don't.
know about Oracle, you don't know about Arc Warden, you don't know about
What's an Arc
Ebola
Warden?
Spirit.
Did you say boneless spirit?
Ebola Spirit. That's what
That
they're
real?
calling him at least. His name is Earth Spirit, but they're affectionately calling him.
Oh, I know Earth Spirit. He's got the little rocks.
He
he
sounds
kicks
so
them.
harmless.
He's got
when you
rocks, and
describe
then
him.
you roll him up into a ball, and then he rolls through the rocks, and then it's great, and he magnetizes you. I know some of these characters. I don't know Arc Warden.
Arc Warden has the ability. His ultimate ability is to create an exact duplicate of himself. Items, abilities, everything. Like complete
So he's
replica.
Meepo.
He's more than Meepo because Meepo can't use his items. But Arc Warden can have 2 Hand of Midas. Arc Warden can have 2 Necronomicons, 2 Dagon, 2 everything.
Can he be 5?
He can be
2?
He can be 2 at maximum, but
That's not as good as Meepo. Meepo
I wonder,
can be 5 Meepos.
can he get a refresher orb make a second one? He can. We can have 2 Arc Warden clones. One of
That's
the
not
No,
5.
You can't have 2 Arc Warden clones, but you can refresh and send another one in, I believe.
okay,
That's
so
how that works.
you can only have 1 at a time.
Yeah.
But you could refresh if you wanted to. That seems kind of like a waste. But like one of the real build orders for Arc Warden is that when you when his illusion dies, he doesn't drop any droppable items like gem or rapier. So you can get a divine rapier or 2 or 3 on Arc Warden and make a clone of yourself, boots of travel into their base, and just like instantly kill somebody. And that if that clone dies,
Who
you
cares?
lose nothing.
Well, the reason the refresher orb has relevance is because if you spawn your duplicate, you send the duplicate in with your boots of travel. Duplicate comes in with his manta, pops his manta. He's got his divine rapier on there, and then he refreshes, and now he has 6 oracles pushing down the lane.
6 Arc Wardens
not with the illusions of the illusion.
Right. Yeah, 6
of the illusion, but yeah,
Oh,
Inception
God.
Oracle, but yeah. You have an army of oracles, not oracles, excuse me, Arc Wardens, running down the lane. So,
So what you're saying
Insane.
is he can be slightly more than Meepo, given a very specific set of circumstances.
given
He can be
time,
more.
Given
can be
time,
more
yeah,
Meepo
it
than
takes some
Meepo.
serious time for Arc Warden
It does.
to get online. Oracle is another cool one. Their ultimate is just all damage is just paused on a hero for like 5 or 8 seconds. It's like a really long
It's
amount of time,
8,
actually. It's 8 seconds.
Wow.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then any damage that gets done just happens at the end, and any healing that gets done is doubled. So,
Like,
like,
you can effectively heal someone for like 1,500 hit points.
yeah, it's insane.
Right.
You put it on like your hard carry in the middle of a fight, and they just can't die for 8 seconds.
So it's like a crazier version of
Like Dazzle's Shower Grave,
Dazzle's. Yep, Shower
kind
Grave.
of. Actually, an Ag Scepter upgrade that I've never seen put to a good use is the Wraith King Ags. Like he has an Ags upgrade where if an enemy hero dies in his vicinity, then they do die, but after their death, they get resurrected as a wraith for like 8 seconds with all their items and abilities, but they're just like in ghost form for like 8 seconds after their death.
Huh.
It's this
Crazy.
this weird Alt Scepter ability that I've never seen it used. I only heard about it recently, like when I looked up his his profile in the wiki or something.
I
It's
think
very
that
situational.
Yeah, it's a very weird Alt Scepter. And then, Gina, I don't know if you heard this, but Alchemist got an Alt Scepter upgrade, which is
he gets more money somehow.
no, his Alt Scepter ability is giving Alt Scepter to someone else.
Of course, sure. Why not? Just more money.
So
Somehow.
like your Sand King was kind of poor all game, but your Alchemist is farming like a motherfucker.
I bequeath
So,
unto you.
hey, dude, here's 4,000 gold.
I get Alchemist is one of my favorite carries just because he carries in a way that so few other carries do. Like other carries, it makes sense. They're an agility hero, and so their attack speed and damage scale really well and really nicely together. Alchemist is just like, no, he gets so much money. he gets money.
And now with
And then-
the inclusion of the item called Moon Shard, which is made with 2 Hyperstones, all it does is buff your attack speed, but you can eat it. And
What?
yeah, it's like an item that you can have. It just makes your attack speed
The
crazy
7th
high.
slot.
It's like your quote unquote seventh slot. You can you can buy this item called a moon shard. You eat it, and then you permanently get half of the attack speed that you were granted from the original moon shard. So everyone can have 7 items. And also, don't you get night vision when you have it?
What?
I'm not sure if when you eat it, but if you hold it.
Yeah, when you're holding it, you definitely get night vision.
Night
glow?
Yeah.
Dota's a weird game.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like this, Dota's so weird.
I think that's a good segue to. I think one of the things that's great about Dota is how many stories Dota generates. Like a Dota game, even a nondescript Dota game will have like 7 or 8 narratives that are going on in your head. Like, oh, this crazy person who's on my team, they won't listen to me. What is happening? Oh, we're in a team fight, and he actually did something right for once. And he seems to actually be helping. Oh my goodness. And then we're going to win this, guys. And then, oh no, hubris, he ran in all by himself. And now he dropped his divine rapier, and now my whole team's screwed.
He gave his Russian battle cry, and then all of a sudden, we're fucking dead, boys.
Like, other than the overt and sometimes covert racism that happens in the Dota, like, in commenting and stuff like that. But how do you guys find that that's what draws you to the game, or more the camaraderie of a team? What keeps you in it for this grind?
I think there's just so many options. I mean, so many options for hero strats, so many options for individual play items. It's just the never-ending battle, because it's always something different on their side. It's something different on your side. That's what keeps me going back for sure.
As a player, it's so if it's just me by myself, it's the depth of Dota makes Dota what it is. So the second I think I've mastered a hero, well, guess what? There's a whole list of heroes waiting that you're not a pro at. So start knocking them out, start becoming better at them. So, and then the items, and they keep it fresh. They keep adding items to the game, and these new Aghanim Scepter upgrades, and the meta shifts constantly. It's not stagnant, and there's always something to consider, and every game is different and unique, and that's what makes the game fun. But at the same time, for me, camaraderie, like you mentioned, Gino, is big too. So playing with friends, online, hanging out with them every night, playing with 4 other guys, and not having to get matched up with a guy from Siberia and a guy from Peru and a guy from Brazil, and I'm speaking English to myself while my teammates run into the fountain to get killed. It's nice having friends to play with, and that definitely brings an aspect to the game that keeps me coming back.
I'll say that joining Reborn Dominion is completely 180'd my Dota experience. Like before, I was on this team, it was fun, so playing with the team was good, but whenever I wasn't in team mode, I had to just play pubs against people that I didn't know anything about. They didn't give a shit about me, I didn't give a shit about them, and
mercenary Dota.
It was just so toxic. And what I like the most about a game of Dota is knowing that the decisions that I make in game pay off with good results, like winning a match or successfully having this gank. And if you're in a pub, that's really hard to do. So the game got really toxic for me last year, and it's way better now playing with a group that I know that, if I'm playing with the RD guys, there's like something like 30 or 40 people that play Dota regularly in RD, so we can normally get like a 10v10. We don't even have to play a pub. It's really nice.
Yeah, I have never solo queued. I have never, ever gone into a game of Dota alone.
I don't blame you.
Ever.
Don't.
Today I actually had my 1300th match. It was right before we got on.
Oh, that was your 1300th, the Enchantress?
Way to go.
That was 1301. My 1300th was, I went like 16-1 on a PA. I had a Rampage that match, actually.
Billy got to play with a new unique hero to Dota called Bristlefront.
Oh, man. That guy was crazy.
Crazy in a good way?
No, his whole ability, like, Bristlebag, you played Bristlebag. Yes. This guy never turned around ever. That's like, we called him Bristlefront. He just faced everyone. Like, the whole point was that his back negates like 80% of damage. So if you turn away from your opponent, like 80% of damage is just negated. It doesn't happen.
And you
never
shoot quills.
Yeah,
and you spray, cool spray.
Yeah, he would just run straight at people all the time. Bristle front.
No.
Going in.
No, I
Back
want
me
to
up.
look you in the eye.
When I die. Yeah.
I want
Oh,
Bristleback's Ag Scepter upgrade to be like he moonwalks for the rest of the game. He just his forward motion animation is him just jogging backwards, looking over his shoulder.
And then he just slams his back into them instead of attacking with his mace.
Bury me quills down so's to poke the devil. The voice actors in Dota are pretty fucking great, though.
They are.
Timbersaw, Storm of Spirit.
Last few questions. So are there any characters you have never played? Still, to this day.
I need to look at my stats right now.
Played or played well?
Yes. I'm going to say played. I'm going to say played period. Played period, and then if you've played every character, just whichever one you think you are the worst at.
I have played every character. I am the worst Ember Spirit in North America. I will say that openly, and I apologize if you ever play with me online and I random Ember Spirit and can't change. We will lose. Don't bet anything.
Yeah, I play everybody too. I think I've only got 20 heroes under 20 games with, but worst probably Earth Spirit.
You don't like putting down the little rocks?
Just bad at it.
They never want to be where you want them to be. Stupid rocks don't move.
Billy?
I'm counting right now. Probably 50 heroes that I've never played.
Great.
Which is like absurd.
I think I've only played 20 heroes.
I've got I'd say 90% of my Dota experience has been across 25 heroes. And that's not, I mean, I know that playing multiple heroes will make me a better player, but this game gives me the option to say, fuck that. Like, I love playing Wind Ranger so much, I'm just going to play this hero for 300 games. Yeah, I can do whatever I want. I love playing 10 heroes, and this game is versatile enough where if you have a hero pool that's like 10 or 20 heroes, you're fine. You know, you can be all you can be as a Dota player if you just pick like 5 or 10 heroes that you really like playing and just play those all the time. As long as you can cover all your roles, you're good.
Yeah, if they're, like I said, I probably haven't played like 80 or more heroes, but of the ones that I have played, I am probably the worst at Morphling.
Okay.
Very bad. I'm very bad at Morphling. I've been told that with Morphling, you're supposed to have a lot of kills, like a lot, like more than deaths, right?
Enemy kills.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you should have killed more of them than they have killed of you. And that, I tend to end up like neutral on kills. Like I'll have all the items that say I should be killing them, but I don't actually get around to killing them. I'm just running around super high on strength.
So there's 33 heroes that I haven't played.
That's crazy. And so I guess the last question I wanted to ask was, so with the depth being what it is, how much do you guys worry about new players, bringing in new players? Because Dota, and teaching new players, getting someone up to speed with Dota, because not only is the game over 100 characters, every single patch, which patches come out multiple times a year at this point, right, can completely rework what characters do, what is good about them, new items to learn. You can learn where Roshan is and then wake up another day and now there's 2 Roshans and the second one's name is Joshan. And all of a sudden the entire metagame is completely shifted. And so I was wondering, how do you guys, one, I guess, keep up with the meta changes and learn the new shifts, and also get someone up to speed? If someone's just joining the clan, like, I want to learn Dota, what would you have them do?
Well, I think one of the most popular sites on the internet, Welcome to Dota, You Suck. The title is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
For a
Welcome
reason.
to Dota, you suck.
Welcome to Dota, you suck.
And that's in there for a reason. So if you're going into a gaming guild, you can't invest a lot of emotion in these matches. You need to realize it's about having fun. It's about playing with friends, and it's some of these games about 50% of the time, you are going to lose. And sometimes it's not about how you win; it's how you lose. So, and with newer players to the game, I'm not an ultra experienced player in the sense that I'm not 7K, and I would be lying if I said I don't go into games and learn something sometimes. So. You realize that you're not the best, that we're all learning in this game. The game changes constantly. And for tracking the meta, that's the great thing about Dota is that there are so many web resources available that are going to explain to you why things are the way they are from someone's perspective. That might not be the right perspective, but a perspective. And then if you play enough, you're going to have that meta kind of slammed in your face game after game, and you're going to either going to learn about it and read about it and realize it, or two, it's gonna smash into your face and you're going to see it while the game kind of unfolds in front of you. So,
yeah, when I played on the team, I played offlane, but I also played jungle, and jungling was one of the styles that I liked the most. I used online resources to learn every single thing about the jungle, so I know how to play every single jungling hero. It's maximum efficiency. No question. A little bit less now because they've changed some of the junglers, but when I was playing jungle, every single jungling hero I could play and knew how to jungle every single camp the most efficient way.
Was the article called Welcome to the Jungle?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
There was some kind of pun there, I know for sure, but there's stuff like quelling blade a specific tree so you can reduce the damage you take from creeps. Like, I mean, it was like super intense. You had to do like a specific route, like a speedrunner's route from minute 0 to get all your trees cut and make sure your jungle was like groomed to your perfection liking.
Was Axl Rose there?
Yes.
Okay. And Olive, do you have any advice for someone trying to get into the game, or some advice on how you stay up on all the changes?
I mean, the changes happen frequently. You'll just see it in the game, especially if you're new to the game. It probably won't even affect you. I think most of it comes through at kind of the 3-4K level. That's probably where you'll see the meta really form, and you'll see these builds that the pros are doing. But as far as a new player goes, just have fun and keep an open mind for it. Try to learn something while you're at it. There's lots of resources. So.
Can I add one thing, Gino, real quick?
Yeah,
I guess some of your listeners that are interested in getting into Dota. I'd say if you can, beyond just the web resources, get linked in with a good gaming community, an online gaming community that has a Dota section or division, because that's where you're going to learn. And if you try and experience this game in a bubble just by downloading it on Steam and rolling right into it, you're going to hop feet first into the meat grinder. So if you can, get out there. RebornDominion.com, not to pitch my product, but
we can pitch RD.
Can we? Okay, so
yeah, totes.
If you're interested in joining an online community, RebornDominion.com, it's a good place to start. Friendly, knowledgeable players that are always willing to teach. But if it's not Reborn Dominion, if it's something else, that I think that's a good place to maybe get your feet wet and experience in the game among safer, nicer, friendlier, more teaching players as opposed to what the pub scene might offer you.
Yeah, I guess what better sell than to end with this final question? What was your worst experience in a pub game? Was it someone cursing? Was someone doing drugs actively on microphone? Because my worst was when I think it was probably when we were doing the Play Like a Girl, and someone was like, there are 2 ladies in this game.
Oh, man.
That was pretty like, this is what this. Oh no, that's why ladies don't talk in Dota games, because I know they're there. I know like statistically people are there, but that getting creeped on a little bit was not super fun.
Grill?
Yes, that was not super fun.
Does it have to be a worst moment in a match, or just like worst Dota realization?
Well. What do you mean by? Why don't you have to elaborate now that you've asked that question?
All right, so like there was a time where I played, and this is not a very long story, but it was right before I took my over a year hiatus, and I was like, I have tried for a year to get better at this game, and it happened on the anniversary of when I installed. Like it was really coincidence.
How fitting.
Like it was really a coincidence. Like I couldn't remember on the day that I installed, but I just felt like looking one day, and I looked at my computer, and I installed that same day. And it was sort of it hit me really hard kind of moment. Like I've been putting like a solid 365 days. I've put over 1,000 hours into this, and I don't like. I have peaked. I have not gotten any better in like 3 months. It wasn't fun anymore. I just had to quit. So that was my outside of game experience. Inside of game, I think one of the worst moments was I was actually playing with RD. Like I was in like a team game or something, and I tried to play like mid Storm Spirit, and it was like a ranked pub or something. We were a 5-stack, and I just fucking threw the game hard. I went like 0-10, and no one, like RD is really cool. No one said like, "Hey, you suck, Billy. You're like a terrible player." But I just knew that I basically wasted everybody's time for the next 30-40 minutes, and that kind of feels bad. That was one time in particular that I just played a game and I fucking threw it hard. I basically just ruined the game for my teammates, and they had to wait for 30 minutes while the game played
They had
out.
to be in the car crash for 30 minutes with you, as you were driving directly into a wall. So did you guys also have a bad experience that led to forming a clan, or led you to a clan, or did you...
So for
go
me,
ahead.
Sorry. For me, no. I was fortunate enough to already be in a guild that offered having Dota here, so I got to be brought up by guys that had some game knowledge and game sense, and were able to pass that down to me affectionately enough. So no, I didn't. I still experience the pub scene from time to time because for whatever reason I'm a masochist, and I'll hit that singleton, let's go do solo MMR rank stuff, and I'm quickly reminded why I don't like doing it at the level that I'm at. So. No.
Yes. And Olive, did you at 6 games a day? You almost have to have had some scenes.
Oh,
and
I mean, there's countless ones for sure. I mean, what brought me to RD was a positive experience, though. So
I can personally attest.
A good game with a random RD guy, and he said, "Hey, you want to play with 10 to 15 other guys that speak English?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll try this out," and haven't looked back since. So
RD's been a night and day experience, going from toxic solo pubs. I mean, I play pubs now, but it's usually just like to complete hero challenges and stuff, and it's usually unranked. Just play pubs casually, but when I want to have fun, just get in a 5-stack with your clanmates, and it's an entirely new experience. It's exactly what you want a team game to be. It's awesome.
Yeah, the most fun I've ever had with Dota was when I was playing with 4 other people in the same room, and all of a sudden these mystical strategies that could only be talked about
when I was drunk?
Suddenly worked. Like
when I was drunk?
Such as Tiny throwing a Centaur into a crowded room, and then Centaur stomps.
I was drunk that night. That was like one of my first times ever being drunk, and I just kept like all chat, all caps, like the Space Jam theme, like while I was throwing.
We were in the same room.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do that.
No, but I needed the other team to know that, like, I just had to say formally, "Welcome to the Space Jam," as I threw a Centaur at some guy. And I was also drunk, and I was playing this fucking stupid Tiny build that I called Race Car Tiny, and it was like, I got like a Yules and like phase boots and drums, and I had max move speed. You had like permanent 522 move speed with him at the time.
And then I made you sprint. So it was just amazing. Like all of these, we were trying to use like all of the wombo combo sort of characters because we could actually effectively communicate when we wanted to do things in a way that like over a mic sometimes just you can't tell if someone's paying attention to you or if they're listening or if they're even there. And so all of a sudden these characters that take strong coordination just work. And it was night and day. But I've only done that once, and so Dota is uninstalled.
We could do an entire podcast on how drunk Dota plays as opposed to sober Dota.
Oh, that's a totally different game.
Yeah, drunk Dota's a whole new game.
There are 7 Meepos. Something's gone wrong.
All right, I have nothing else to talk about this game about.
Yes. So before we go, does anyone have anything to plug, like social media or, again, to your guild's site?
RD.
Last chance. reborndominion.com /forum if you're interested in seeing what games we offer, what titles are out there in our core divisions, and what games we're looking at in the future that are in alpha right now that we're looking to get a good community going in as they get released into beta, and and final product. So, yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys got something out of it. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. And also, where can people see you if you guys are going to be playing in a Dota tournament? Like, do you guys have anything lined up where someone could maybe see some of this hot, high-level strategy?
Linden?
The AT2Ls just hit playoffs, so you can check their website. There's, I think, about 16 teams going. A lot of them are casted. You can check it out on Dota TV. I think
Sweet.
it's like $2, maybe, something like that. But
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you, Olive Garden, Linden. Thank you, Billy.
Thanks, everybody. It was
Yeah, thanks, guys.
a pleasure. I had fun. Dota is heroin. It's the best kind. It's the worst kind. It's
You'll lose yourself, man.
man. You gotta just know yourself. Dota has.
Just ride the Spirit Breaker.
You
Ride the
gotta be
Spirit
careful
Breaker.
with Dota, man. Dota's a big game.
You click Spirit Breaker, and then you target an opponent, and if they're running into their fountain, you don't care. You just keep charging. Keep on pushing. And so if anyone wants to get in contact with the podcast or has any questions for any of our guests or something that we could route to them, go ahead at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on our actual website, deeplistens.libsyn.com. So, thank you to everyone who has joined us, and thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this Dota episode. If you want to hear more about Dota, we know people who know things about Dota. So, go ahead and let us know if you enjoy these Dota or Smash Brothers episodes that we've been doing. So, thanks. Peace!